Hey folks, welcome to a frankly Classie gun review. Today I'm going to talk about the Keltec P32, and some folks might argue about the effectiveness of the 32 automatic as a concealed carry piece, but I'm not going to get into that today. I just want to talk about the weapon itself. I'm going to share with you what I like about it and why I personally carry one of these. So before we begin, the first thing you always do is you check to make sure that the firearm is unloaded, which also brings us to some of the features. So first feature, the magazine release. We're going to drop that magazine right out. Pops nice and easy. On the other side here, there are two ways to tell that it's unloaded. Obviously, you always want to go the extra mile and check the chamber. It's unloaded. But on this side of the weapon, you'll see there's a small gap right there. And that gap is so that if there is a round in the chamber, you can see that round just a little bit of shine of brass there to let you know that there's a round in the chamber. It's a nice, easy way to check it to see if it's loaded. On this side, it's a nice and smooth looking weapon. You'll notice that there is almost nothing on that side. And again, on the left-hand side, same story. There's pretty much no controls here. You got the magazine, obviously the magazine drop, and you have the trigger. So that comes to the point that there is no safety on this weapon, and there's no slide lock or release. That makes this gun altogether right at 3/4 of an inch wide. And personally, I think that's fantastic. It's very easy to conceal. Now, some folks would be concerned about the lack of a safety, and this compensates a little bit with a very stiff trigger pull. We'll come back to carrying it and things like that in just a moment when it comes to that stiff trigger pull. But let's talk about the action itself. First of all, this is a short recoil operated pistol. It is not a straight blowback. And to my knowledge, this is the only short recoil operated 32 caliber on the market today. Maybe there's others, but they're certainly not very popular. We refer to this as a double action because it pulls the hammer back. And you can see that right there as I pull the trigger just a little bit, it's pulling the hammer back. But if you want to be technical, it actually operates at a half cock already. So let me show you what I mean here. We start with it here, which is actually the half cock position. When you pull the trigger, it pulls the hammer back the rest of the way until it drops, and it's a pretty long pull right there. And then when you cycle it, it puts it back into that half recoil position, okay? So one more time, I pull it back, it goes all the way back, it goes down, and that's the dropped position. You can't see the hammer at all, really. You cycle it back, and there it is in the half position. You'll notice again, too, I'll just show you that really long trigger pull there. And it's pretty stiff. I don't really know what the poundage is, but it gives you a good bit of resistance. Now that being said, again, it comes back to the carrying. Personally, even though it's a pretty stiff trigger, I don't like carrying it in my pocket without something covering that trigger guard. You know, you just never know, okay? Fortunately, there's a myriad of holsters on the market out there, but you don't need anything fancy, okay? This gun is so thin, I just made a really simple Kydex holster. And I know it looks like garbage, but hey, a few pieces of plastic here to give it a little bit of thickness. And if you're not familiar with Kydex, you can buy Kydex, like a 12 by 12 sheet for $10 or less. Go to eBay or lots of places. And Kydex is great because if you heat it up to 300 degrees in your oven, it gets hot, it gets very flexible, and then you pull it out, you can mold it, and within about a minute or two, it's cooled down and it's stiff as any other piece of plastic out there, okay? So I just made a few pieces of kind of filler, if you will, and I heated it up in the oven and kind of stuck it in here, and I just kind of pushed it in just a little bit so it's got just a little bit of snap to it, okay? A little bit of retention right there. I can shake this. Sorry about that. I shouldn't be shaking the camera, but I can shake this really good, and it won't come out, but it's not too hard to pull. And then I just finished up the sides with duct tape because I am an absolute cheapskate. And speaking of being a cheapskate, $180, okay? You can't beat it. $180 for 8 rounds of 32 ACP. That brings me to the teardown, okay? How do you take this puppy apart? A lot of videos out there show you a different way, and I want to highlight that, and I think a slightly better way. So as mentioned, there's no slide lock on here, so what people typically do, put the hammer in there, or the magazine in there, and then use that to lock it back. pull the pin out, drop the hammer. Way too much. You don't need to do all that stuff, okay? All you really need to do, obviously take that magazine out, drop this down, and from the cocked position, take your pocket knife and just pop it out. It's not hard. Whoops. Don't stab yourself like that. But you pop it out just a little bit right there, and then slide it back just a hair, just about that much, okay? And then pull that pin right out, and it slides apart real easy, okay? Now all you got in here is your recoil spring and the guide rod. There are actually 2 springs on there together, so don't lose those, okay? And then you have your barrel. It's very simple, okay? Slap it back together like that. The guide rod slips in there, and oops, fits on that ledge on the bottom of the barrel, okay? And then, now you saw there's just a little bit of play sideways right there, right? So when you slide this back on here, if for any reason it gives you a little bit of resistance, that one just slid on perfectly. Once in a while it gives me just a little bit of resistance, and it just kind of jiggle it sideways, okay? No biggie. So just slide it on like that, back just a hair again, and then pop that pin right in, and you're good to go, okay? This thing is incredibly simple, and its simplicity is its beauty. There's nothing fancy about this at all, but I will tell you, it's worth every penny. I would put this up against other more expensive 32s any day of the week. They've got an excellent reliability record. They've got 8 rounds, and they are smaller, I think thinner than just about anything else you're going to find out there. So the Keltec P32, folks, give it a shot. Hope you have fun, and of course, always be safe at the range.